Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Ellis. I am the union president for Local 2338 in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. I'm here to talk to you about a very important subject. And this is one that really eats at the heart of why people are sometimes disgruntled with the promotional system within the Department of Veteran Affairs. I represent employees that work at the John J. Pershing VA Medical Center in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And our facility is no different than any other VA facility in the country. Every facility has the obligation to follow the merit promotion system or hiring practices and selections on a fair, equitable, transparent, and honest process. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about today is something that eats at the integrity of the program itself. And people who often get hurt by this type of program I'm going to explain to you are people who do the right thing and follow the book. That is the employees. What we're going to talk about here today is nepotism, bullying, harassment, discrimination by members of the Quad and human resources. Now, you anticipate and expect for members of the Quad or the top four in your agency, the medical center director, the associate director of patient care services, and your chief of staff. And you also expect for human resources to be completely unbiased and fair in the process as well. When you lose faith in your Quad, when you lose faith in your leadership, which is your Quad, then you have to ask yourself, who's at the helm? And if you found them at multiple occasions being unethical, dishonest, deceiving, and manipulative, you have no choice but to look at them and ask yourself the question, who do you think you're fooling? Because we see, as employees, we see right through it. So here's what we're going to talk about has happened and is happening at the John J. Pershing VA Medical Center in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Now, under merit promotions, you will hear management say they have the right to hire. Let me explain to you what that means. When the statute gives management the right to hire, it does not give them the right to select and choose who gets hired for any particular position. That falls within the merit system principles. The agency has the right to hire means they have a right to determine the types of positions they want, what they want to call those positions. OPM has already established what the pay is going to be. So the local agency doesn't establish what the starting pay or what the ending pay will be for a particular position and a particular grade. That's already set. So the management has a right to create the position, make the announcement that they're going to hire the position, but they do not have a right to determine who gets selected unilaterally or discriminatorily. They don't get that option. That is the agency's right to hire, put out the hiring information, and say we need to hire 15 nurses. They have a right to do that. They do not have the right to say, I want to pick that one, I want to pick this one, I want to pick that one with the red hair, I want to pick that one because they're black, I want to pick that one because they're non-union, I want to pick that one because it's a member of my family, I want to pick that one because I went to high school with them. They don't have a right to do that. That's discriminatory, period. Agency has the right to hire make the announcement, put it out for bid, and put it out for competition. That's a better word to describe it. They have a right to put it out for bid and for competition. The employee who applies for the jobs has an absolute right to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they will be given a fair, honest, equal, transparent opportunity to be selected or promoted into a position. And that selection has to be based on fair and equitable criteria. Experience, education, skills, ability, knowledge, awards, longevity, internal to the local agency versus external. Those are the rights that the employee have. They have a right to be selected and considered and selected for a position without regard to their race, color, political affiliation, marital status, gender, sexual orientation, or political affiliation. Employees have a right to expect that. And when they don't get that right, it is taken away from them by members of the Quad or human resources or a manager, a selecting official, then you have lost an open and fair and honest ability to hire. What I'm going to talk to you about is a clear, defined pattern of abuse by the Quad and managers of the agency. In 2016, as the associate director of the facility, Libby Johnson discriminated against an employee because of their union affiliation and their connection to the union. She discriminated against the employee in the middle of 2016 solely because the employee was a representative of the union and just happened to be married to the union president of the local. In 2016, there were 4 positions open. 3 positions, 4 employees applied. One of the employees dropped out. That left 3 positions for 3 employees. Libby Johnson, as the associate director, told a bold-faced lie and said, we're no longer going to hire for this position because we don't have the money for it. And they have to get special permission, quotation, special permission to fill the position. Now, we knew that was a lie because Libby had been holding that position thinking another employee that she wanted to select because of their non-political or non-union status to give it to them. When that employee dropped out, it left 3 internal qualified candidates that was more than qualified to do the job. One of those people, Libby Johnson, said, I do not want to give it to them, and refused to give it to them. The union got involved, and someone from Human Resources admitted that Libby Johnson deliberately screwed up. She did it on purpose and with ill intent not to promote that particular employee because of their union status. The union helped get it corrected. The employee was given the position along with a $3,000 bonus or back pay due to the non-selection. The reason that's important is that because that was a member of the Quad. That was the associate director of the medical facility that engaged in that behavior. Imagine your Quad leadership engaging in such behavior. Okay? We had another employee in 2016 to 2017 qualified for a position, was one of the most qualified, if not the most qualified, for the position. One of the managers said, oh, this particular employee has been disciplined and has a negative mark in their EOPF on their record. We learned through a human resources individual, ERLR, that the manager had lied to prevent that employee from being promoted. The union got involved, and that individual ended up getting promoted to the position. Now, although this manager, who told a lie that this employee had been disciplined, wasn't a Quad member, the practice and the technique had begun to trickle its way down from the Quad through members of Human Resources to frontline supervisors and managers. What would make this manager lie and say that this employee had been disciplined when they had not? But more importantly, so what? What if they had a disciplinary action on their record? Does that disqualify them from being able to perform the job they applied for if they were the most qualified person? Just because you get a disciplinary action doesn't mean you're the worst of the worst. At the John J. Pershing VA Medical Center, they've tried to give employees the discipline because they roll their eyes at somebody. We have to get it fixed. They tried to get somebody disciplined because they came in 2 minutes late for the first time in a year. Or they tried to get somebody disciplined because they just didn't like the way they talked on the telephone. Just because the agency tries to discipline somebody doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's just, and doesn't mean it is for sufficient cause. Because at this hospital, we have proven over and over and over that leadership and managers at the John J. Pershing VA Medical Center do not understand the concept of discipline for just and sufficient cause. They don't understand it. They use it as a stain to punish employees. And we fight it all the time. So just because somebody gets a disciplinary action on their record does not disqualify them for a promotion to a higher grade. Okay? It doesn't. Now, I just gave you an example of a Quad member in 2016. The next one was in 2017. Now here comes another one in 2018, before I get to the big one. In 2018, a supervisor by the name of Dale Garrett, with the approval of Libby Johnson and with the knowledge and the approval of Patricia Hall, engaged in employment discrimination through anti-union animus. Now, this is what I mean when I say, if you get a bad leader, a bad person put into a leadership position with corrupt intent and corrupt ideas and techniques, not only does it filter throughout your other supervisors and managers, it's almost implied and forced upon them to make the decision that the quad wants them to make. Because here's what happens. If the lower level managers don't make the decision upper leadership wants them to make, upper leadership will remove the selection ability from the lower level manager. That happened in 2018. Dale Garrett, with Libby Johnson, with Patricia Hall, with Ronald Gray, with some other people in human resources, deliberately violated the merit system promotion system on purpose to prevent the most qualified candidate from being selected. That's a manipulative, unethical, and deceitful process from some unethical people. Okay, now I just gave you 2016. I gave you 2 in 2017. Now here comes the big one. In 2017, the agency received a memorandum of understanding. And the memorandum of understanding was very, very clear. And they were required to give it to the local union representatives before they did anything with it. And the memorandum was a signed agreement between the National VA and the National Union that says local agencies will not circumvent the merit system promotion system in hiring MSAs by bypassing internal qualified applicants. Here's what they did. We had 6 employees that are qualified internally for MSA positions. Those employees were, and I might miss a name or two, but it's not on purpose, Whitney Vineyard, Patricia Scott, Brandy Briscoe, Sherry Gilton, Stella Hunt, and there was one other person, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Donald Webb. Those 6 individuals qualified for a MSA or medical support assistant position. They interviewed, they qualified for it, and the agency, somebody in the quad, made a decision they were not going to select those employees. They want to go to the outside and hire people. One of the people that was hired was Chandra Miller's husband. Chandra Miller was intimately involved in this process. There's no way in hell that you're going to tell me that Chandra Miller and other quad members did not know they were going to select their spouses for a position over qualified internal applicants through an outside process of a job fair. That happened the job fair was in 2017. The union grieved it, took it to arbitration, and we received the arbitrator's decision, I believe on Thursday of last week, that said Donald Webb, Stella Hunt, Sherry Gilton, Brandy Briscoe, Patricia Scott, and Whitney Vineyard were discriminated against by the agency. The arbitrator went on to make one more assessment. He said that the agency, the Quad, engaged in nepotism and hired their own family and friends. Yes. Now, the Quad can run around here all they want to, talking about chats with Candy and town halls with Paul and meetings with Kimberly and all these people. You can do all that stuff you want to. But when the rubber meets the road and it shakes out that you've been unethical, that you've engaged in employment discrimination, that you've been manipulative, you've been deceitful, and you've been dishonest, I just wonder what you feel like walking through the hallways, showing your faces to employees of the agency when you are creating dishonesty, demonstrating no integrity, not being transparent, being deceitful and manipulative. What do you think employees do or think when they see you? See, I've known this has been the problem for a long time. I have been complaining since 2016 that members of the Quad and some of human resources are unethical in their hiring practices. Now we have the proof. It happened in 2016, 2017, 2018. We found it in 2019. And we're fixing to find some more in 2020 and 2021 and 2022. So ask yourself this question. How many of you have applied for positions that you thought you were the most qualified candidate? You didn't get selected. And the person that was selected by the agency, that employee came to you and asked you to train them. That tells you that two things. One, the most qualified candidate was not selected when a person who was selected turns around and is asking for help to perform the duties they said they were qualified to do. That tells you the right selection wasn't made. Here's the other thing this process tells you and verifies. The arbitrator decisions that have been in the union's favor when it comes to non-selections and non-promotions proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the agency does not have the right to choose who they wish in selections and promotions. Just a mere fact that we are winning arbitrator decision after arbitrator decision after arbitrator decision, or EEO complaint after EEO complaint, which that hasn't happened in a while because EEO is just not what it used to be until it gets fixed. But arbitrator decision after arbitrator decision after arbitrator decision is verification that the agency does not have a right to hire who they are, to select who they want to. I'm going to go back to where I started. The agency has a right to put the jobs out for bid and for competition. They do not have the right to make a selection of whom they want to outside of a fair and equitable process. I learned last week that there was a FTC position that had been applied for at our local John J. Pershing VA Medical Center. And I learned through the grapevine that the two candidates that applied for the job actually tied. According to what we were told by a manager the two employees that applied for the jobs, they tied. So the agency conducted a second interview. Then all of a sudden, there was no tie anymore. The person that was not selected happened to be a union representative who had been bullied and harassed by the employee that had been selected. We're not done with that process. We're in the early stages of it right now, digging into it. But that's another example of the agency does not get to select whom they want to for that position. And here's another part. That position the two employees tied for was a GS9 level position. The union representative then applied for a lower level position, which was a lead, and was told they were not the best qualified. Well, here's our problem with that. If they qualified at the GS9 grade for a higher level position, how does that union representative not be the most qualified candidate when they applied for a lower level position for a lower grade? There's something fishy going on. And if you know this union and our ability to arbitrate and be successful in non-selections, you know we're going to get to the bottom of it. We are hell-bent on making sure and correcting the unethical, manipulative, and deceitful hiring practices at the John J. Pershing VA Medical Center. We are going to represent these employees, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. With the latest decision that just came in, we are now going to ask for every single bargaining unit position that was announced and promoted dating back 6 years. Under the Back Pay Act of 5 U.S.C. 5596, we have a right, if we can prove the agency engaged in employment discrimination, we can go back 6 years and get people promoted with back pay and get the record corrected. And if you know anything about me and the officers that work with me, you know that we are up for the task. We may need to reach out to some of you to help us, because we expect for it to be a monumentous event that we have to do and be involved in, but it's something that we have to do. Okay? So, but I just want to bring that to you. Attached with this video is the actual arbitrator's decision that's about 27 pages long. You can read it for yourself. We may also put the transcripts out with it to be 100% transparent so you can read it and hear it for yourself. As a matter of fact, we think it would be prudent for every employee to know exactly what your managers are saying behind closed doors when they're in arbitration. That's taxpayer money. You and the public have a right to know when your director is lying, when your associate director is being deceitful, when your associate director of patient care services is being manipulative. You have a right to know when human resources is not being forthcoming and truthful. You have a right to know that. The general public has a right to know that agency officials and the federal government are not following the rules and regulations as they should. And we are going to put out transcripts after transcript after decision so the public can see for themselves. Don't take our word for it. Read the actual language. At this hospital right now, we have won our last 3 arbitrations in a row. We just won this non-selection. Before that, we won another one where the agency does not give the union adequate room and space for us to be able to represent you. They're trying to keep the union restricted to prevent us from being able to represent you to the best of our ability. We won that arbitration. And the agency has to pay for some of our space off campus and storage because of it. But we're not done with that one. And then the one before that was another non-selection that we won in April or July of this year. So we ask you as members of the bargaining unit, employees, hang in there. It may take us a while to get to where we're going, but we have not forgot about you and we're going to help you. We have one thing in our favor. Our contract says that we can file a grievance if there's an issue that is ongoing and of a continuing nature. That means it is not restricted to a 30-day window. Read it for yourself in Article 43 of the Master Collective Bargaining Agreement. This book right here. Read it for yourself. All right, so watch the video, listen to it, share it with anybody you want to. I'm going to put it out on Facebook. I'm going to put it out on YouTube. I'm going to put the transcripts out there with it and the arbitrator's decision. That way you can read it for yourself. God bless you and have a good day.